if you have someone working for you in your business doing finances, their literal job is to be able to explain it to you.
100%.
So if they can't explain it, then you're not doing your job and get out of here. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to On Air. I'm Sarah.
I'm Ariana.
And
What episode are we on?
4? 5?
I think we're on 5.
Oh my gosh.
So we're actually getting pretty close to the, was it 20 or 21?
I think it's 21 means you're the top 1%
Okay, so
of podcasters. So we're not that close, but we're closer.
even though we have 2 listeners and it's our family.
Well, for now.
Yeah, for now.
But soon people will be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to just dive into the archives of this podcast because I just found them and they're so great and I'm going to listen to other episodes. Welcome.
Dive into the archives.
We actually have a few episodes that are in the vault because they're very honest and timely for exactly what's happening in our lives right now. And they just feel like we need a little bit of time before we put them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so technically this is like recorded like our 6th or 7th, but
Yeah.
basically professionals.
Basically professionals. So how was your trip?
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was warm. It was like 30 degrees. There was sun and sand and pools and spicy margaritas, which are my favorite things.
Oh, so nice.
So good. And blended lime margarita, blended mango. Those are a little too dangerous though because I can chug those. That's why I put the spice in. Like chills me out a little.
Yeah, it makes it feel not so sweet.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense.
And then I don't chug it. But it was really fun. And the place was really nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got a chance to reset, relax.
And guess what I didn't do?
work.
I didn't! Wasn't that crazy though?
Yay.
I actually brought my laptop because I wanted to send one thing that I like the night before couldn't quite finish. And so in the airport at like 6 in the morning, I did it. And then I didn't open my laptop one time.
That's
what crazy?
Vacations should be.
I know, but I haven't done that in like ever.
I know. Or you do and you just feel so guilty and then you're like checking your phone to see if there's like any emergencies or
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, okay, so we're doing it. We're doing the thing.
Yeah.
We've reached a milestone in our business and that's getting to take time off with no guilt.
Well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just put words into your mouth. Maybe I don't know what you felt.
Actually,
but
I actually didn't feel any guilt about not working.
good.
That is true. Which was amazing. I have not felt that in like, I don't know, when's the first time I guess since I've had like a job that's like a job where you could like take work home with you. Like serving, obviously not because you're like,
Yeah.
you can't work at home. But
It's actually funny how before you have a job that you can work from home at, you think that it's something that's like to be envied.
yeah.
And then once you have the ability to work from home, you realize it's actually the worst thing ever because you can never escape work.
Yeah.
And
And
you're
there's no
kind of
like
like-
excuse to not work.
Yeah.
100%. And then if you already have like your go-to emotion being guilt, then you always feel like you should be working no matter what.
Yeah. Who does that sound like?
Just people I've heard of.
Just some arbitrary hypothetical person.
Someone out there has got to have that, right?
Yeah, somebody.
I don't know.
Maybe even someone in this room. I don't know.
Yeah, but I actually didn't feel any guilt not working, which was sweet. Part of it was because I told myself, well, you know, Ariana is going to go on a trip and then if I work on my trip, then she's going to feel like she has to work on her trip. I really don't want her to feel like that. So it was like out of the goodness of my heart that I didn't work.
You're so selfless.
Yeah, well, I know.
To be fair, that's actually true. Because if you worked on your vacation, then when it comes time for me to take vacation, I would feel like I would have to work.
Yeah. And it was almost like a little, not test, but it's like we've been very intentional to set things up so that we could do this. Like that was always the goal. Like even starting this business, we're like, the goal is that each of us could take time off if we need to, if we want to, and not have to work.
Yeah, of course. Because that way
makes
you
sense.
actually come back recharged, refreshed.
Yeah. Excited, have ideas. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I have to do this as like a little test if we did it.
You literally had to do it. There was
had to
no
do
other
it.
option for scientific research.
Yeah.
You had to do it.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
there was a couple other people I was with and they have their own business too, but they but they don't have anyways, but then they had to work a little bit and I was like, whoa. I've never been the one not working. I've always been the person who's like, okay, I'll be back. I have to go do this thing really quick. It was weird. It was a really weird
Wow.
experience. It was awesome.
And how did that make you feel?
So good.
Did it?
Yeah.
Why is that so
I don't know. I was just like, how did it make me feel? It made me feel good. It made me feel like this is so weird that this is the first time I've done this. And I'm like 33.
Mm-hmm. Ew.
Ew.
You don't look 33.
Wow. Thank you so much. What was I like? It was more just like, wow, I can't believe I'd never really have done this. Like, I can't believe this isn't normal, almost.
Yeah, and like kind of like a window to your old life or another path that you could have taken that you didn't.
Oh my God. Yeah, exactly. And it made me very, very grateful for where we're at,
Yeah.
even though and very excited for the future.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I
Which
mean,
it doesn't sound like that much, but when you have a career where like you have like, I don't know, like it's just to go from the way we used to work where it's like you're always kind of expected to be available no matter what, even though you're not working, but like,
yeah.
And then to go from like that to literally no one talking to you for a week and fully being left alone, and not just that, but also trusting that it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is amazing. We're doing it. It's amazing. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty sweet.
Yeah. So it was fun. And then the place is really pretty, and we went on a hike, and yeah, just like super chill. I read a book.
What kind of book?
The same author that you gave me, but it wasn't book 2. It was her other one because Brittany had it, or my sister-in-law had it.
Throne of Glass?
Yeah.
Really? You started that series?
Well, I didn't mean to, but she had it.
Okay, well, if you do, you're in for a roller coaster.
Well, she was like, oh my God, I can't wait for you to see what happened at the end of book 2, because she gave me book 2.
Gonna be honest.
Not good. Don't read it.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Stop reading.
That series really affected me.
In a bad way?
No,
Okay.
in an emotionally. Anyways, I will say the first 3 books are okay.
Yeah, she was like she's like, this book isn't that. She's like, it's not her. Like, it's the worst of her books. But I was like, well, I have nothing else to read.
I think the second one and there's like a prequel that comes out that you can read it like at different points.
Yeah,
but I read it third.
Okay.
I don't think it was that good. Some people think it was really good. Some people read it first, so it was like chronological order. I read it in publishing order. There's like this whole debate.
Yeah.
Anyways,
something like that.
If you do continue it,
okay,
not the last book, but the 2 before that, I would urge you to read in tandem
at the same time.
Yeah.
She said that too.
And there's a guide online that tells you like which chapters to read.
Really?
And it sounds like really intense, but I sped through, and the books are thick. They're like this thick.
Yeah. Okay, so it's good.
I cried a lot of times in that series.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
It's almost like that author does that where she, like, sometimes it does start slower and there's a lot of buildup and there's a lot of things where you're like, we're kind of going off. Like, there's a lot of things where you're like, why are we going into this? And then when it all comes together, you're like, and then you're emotionally wrecked.
Okay, well, good to know.
Anyways.
Maybe we'll just wait for my next vacation to read it again.
So is Anthony's sister that?
She's reading it.
Has she read all of the books?
No.
Okay.
She was 1 book ahead of me. So she literally finished book 1 and was like, do you want to read it? And then she had book 2 with her.
Oh.
And then, but she was just saying how online she saw that there was like,
well, if you
read it.
want to continue, I've got the whole series. And I've got the whole other series. And there's a 3rd series that I also have that I'm reading right now that I'm finishing.
Sweet.
They're
all the same author? Sarah
J. Maas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's got 3 series and
so
he's
probably making it big.
2 of them are interconnected, supposedly. I don't think Throne of Glass is, unless that's going to come out in the future. But I haven't read the 3rd book in her latest series, Crescent City. I'm finishing the 2nd book. I'm like 50 pages away from finishing. This is like, we should not have gone into this topic because now I'm going to go off on a tangent.
You're a reader.
Apparently in the 3rd book of this series, it links that series with the Akatar series.
Oh, cool.
Which I feel like I've seen a few spoilers, but I'm trying to not look at them because I still have to read that book, and then I've read her whole thing.
You've read everything.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do after that?
Well, I have a Kindle, so
Oh, so you have other books you could read.
yeah, I got a lot of other books I can read.
Holy
Anyways,
cool. So I have so many
sorry.
books I could read. Yeah, I read the first book
Sorry about
like
me.
so fast.
That one
Well,
I
not so
actually
fast,
thought
but-
was not bad. I found the second one really slow until the very, very, very end. And it kind of dragged, and I was kind of like, and then the third one, that's like the prequel, I was like, I know I need to get through this, but like, fuck. And the fourth one is where things really start picking up. And then I was
Oh.
like speeding through it.
Okay. Cool. Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna keep going.
Okay.
Keeping on.
Sorry
Except
about
then I
that.
get, I don't know. I feel like a lot of things in my life I'm either like very into or
Mhm.
not. And like reading, I'm like,
Yeah.
if I, it's almost like
Well,
I'm
you
sometimes scared to
read-
start it because then I just like get obsessed. Then I'm like,
Well, that's
do
what
I have
happened.
time to be obsessed with this right now? Not really. Well, maybe.
Well, I
don't
mean,
know.
like, you have to have like some type of hobby for
Yeah, but I have
enjoyment.
like 7 hobbies.
That's true. You ride horses. Also, you read the 2 shittiest books out of all of her series so far. So like that's
And
pretty
they weren't
tough.
bad.
The second book in that first series that you started,
Yeah.
is
Which one should I read first?
really good.
Because
I
I
would
would read
read-
the first of both.
Personally, I would read Akatar first because it's a little bit more. It's
Exciting.
it's a little bit more romance heavy.
Yeah. This one had like none. It was just about like fighting.
I know.
And I was like, what am I even reading this for?
You're like, this is
a waste of
not
my
the
time.
vibes.
Yeah.
It doesn't get into the romance till later in that series.
Okay.
So like you have to put in a lot of work for Throne of Glass. You have to be committed. And I feel like Akatar is like you can get into it right away.
Yeah.
And it kind of like, I don't know. I think that's the starter series, and then I would go Throne of Glass, and then I would go the series that I'm on if you're still interested.
Okay. Perfect.
Although I actually am really liking this third series, which a lot of people said they haven't, but I actually think it's pretty good. Anyways,
Well, I got plans for the next.
also the second book in Akatar is way better than the second book in Throne of Glass.
Okay. So might as well do that one first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like those characters. It's pretty sweet.
Well, you're about to be thrown for a loop because
Uh-oh. Then you stop liking them.
nothing is the same.
One of them's bad. Okay, don't tell me. No spoilers.
Okay.
Anyway, speaking of new hobbies, I signed up for a 6-week mountain bike.
You
lessons.
did? Lessons.
Yeah, because I went with Anthony, and I was like, I've been talking about the last 2 years. I'm like, I should take a lesson. I love a lesson. I feel like I'm a very teachable person.
Yeah.
Love lessons in anything. And he was like, I was driving home from mountain biking, and I was like, he's like, I've heard of this one. And so then I just signed up for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it like once a week?
Yeah, it's once a week for 6 weeks, like Monday nights for 2 hours or an hour and a half or something.
Wow.
And I signed up for beginner adult women because that makes sense.
that checks out.
And yeah,
Oh my gosh.
so we'll see. But because I was like, I don't know, I am very, very beginner. But also, I'm like, there's definitely things that I'm doing that are like bad habits for sure. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But
that's
yeah.
exciting. When does that start?
I think like April 14th or something.
Okay.
Mid-April.
Coming up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I was like, wow, I didn't really need. Okay, well, whatever. But then I won't be in such. I'll probably be a lot safer though too.
Well, and it's like it's a pretty good hobby. I mean, like it's a workout.
Yeah. Also, this time it wasn't even like it wasn't a drop or anything. It was just like some rocks, and then like I was like, I'm doing this one, and I went because you had to go up and then down. Anyways, so I went up, and then I was like, I should put my seat down, and then I like tried to do that while also going down, and then like I didn't fall, but I like did the thing where you like almost fall,
Yeah.
and then I think Anthony was like, okay, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. Halfway through, I just thought I should put my seat down. He's like, why would you put your seat? You should put your seat on before you do the. And I was like, yeah, that's true. But like, there's so
In
many
the
things to
moment.
think about.
Yeah. You have to be very alert.
Yeah, and you have to like
strategic.
multitask, and then you have to like, I don't know. I'm like only now starting to be like a little bit muscle memory, but not even.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so I think he was
Wow.
like, you should take a lesson.
He's like, you know what?
You know what?
Why didn't you say? Why don't you teach me?
Because he's not very good at teaching.
Oh.
It's no offense to him. He's an excellent mountain biker, but he learned mountain biking as like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So he's just like, I do this because I just did it, and then now I do it.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't really think about what he's
It's
doing.
muscle memory for
Yeah,
him.
he's just like, I don't
doing
know.
the
When you go
things.
over it, you just want to like make sure your balance is good. And I'm like, Yeah, obviously, but like how?
He's like, you just bike and then you just get on it and you just pedal and then you don't pedal and
Just
then
bike.
it's that's it.
He's like, when you do the drop, you don't want to go too far forward or back. I'm like,
You're like, what is
like firstly,
too forward and what
I'll
is
never do a drop ever. I'm never taking my wheels off the ground, ever.
no, for what? What are you trying to do? Be sponsored by Red Bull? Like, I don't think so.
Mm-mm. Too scary. But it is a good workout and it is fun.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. Why not?
Wow. I need to do something.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, you are doing something. You've read like $100.
Yeah, but something more.
You can mountain bike.
I can hardly bike around the neighborhood.
I think it's different.
Okay, the neighborhood is also. I live in a neighborhood with a lot of hills.
You're basically mountain biking here.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna freaking pass out last time I biked around the neighborhood. Yeah, well, I mean, like, we do go out in the boat.
Yeah.
Now that it's nice out. We went out last weekend.
And got fish.
Got salmon. Smoked salmon.
That's so amazing. Do you ever eat them raw or can you not do that? Can you do that?
I
have no idea.
No, but I'd be too scared.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll smoke
make,
it.
like,
Like
a
we did a cold
ceviche.
smoke. I would do that.
With like, because it's kind of cooking it with the
Yeah.
lime juice.
Yeah. Ooh, I should. We actually got enough to like freeze some.
So how many salmons did you get?
6.
There's salmon in that lake?
Kokanee salmon.
Oh.
So they're smaller, but we got a few big ones. Like I've never seen kokanee that big. I know they do get that big, but I feel like we normally get these like little guys. But we got some like.
What's the secret?
You know what's hilarious?
You caught them all.
No. Actually, I caught one.
Nice.
We have had troubles catching kokanee in that lake.
Mm-hmm.
Just finding, or we'll find like a school like on the fish finder, and then they won't be biting.
That's
We're
a
like,
thing?
hello, just like eat the lure. Like, what's the big deal? I don't get it. Anyways, so you know what I did when we were on the boat this weekend? I used AI. I'm not kidding. I actually did this. I used ChatGPT and I said, we are on this lake, this day, this time. Where and how should I catch these fish?
Shut
and
the
it
fuck up.
literally said they like this type of lure, these colors, because of the time of year, whatever. They like around this temperature, probably between 30 and whatever feet below, probably. And I was like, tell me the exact points in the lake. And it was like the south end is deeper, so they'll probably be there. Also, there's these like shelves here that they like to, and we caught more than we've ever caught.
I'm literally in shock. That's so cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Next course, how to catch AI fish.
How to catch a fish using AI.
That's so cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is wild.
Because Josh was like, he was Googling it. And I'm like, why don't you just ask ChatGPT?
Yeah. Google.
And he's like, huh? And I'm like, I'll do it.
I'll do it.
So I put in all the details. We're on this lake. It's this time of year. It's the temperature of the water is this. Like,
that's sick.
And it told us where to catch the fish and how to catch the fish. And it was like, they like chrome color. What I don't know. I don't actually know. I'm basically passenger princess the whole time we're doing this. But they like chrome and they like pinks and oranges and like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so Josh had one lure that had those colors and it was catching. And he's like, I'm going to change the other one. And he changed it to the same colors and they were both catching.
Sounds to me like you caught the fish.
So
you caught all the fish.
I'm a fisherwoman.
Fisherwoman. A fisher they.
A fish.
Did you see that? Did you see that thing where
no.
What's his name? Oh, that singer. Anyways.
Okay.
He's a singer and he was doing an interview and then someone was like, you're a fisherman. He's like, a fisher they? Because he goes by they them. I thought it was so funny.
A fisher they.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we used AI to help us catch dinner.
Wow.
And now, yeah, we had some fresh smoked salmon. We froze some salmon. And
did you go, I love you, ChatGPT? I do that all the time.
No.
Oh.
I said it on the inside with less words.
Yeah. Like love?
So not at all.
Or just emotions. Okay.
I
got
just
it.
felt gratitude.
I was like,
that AI was able to help us catch dinner.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sick.
So apparently that's what I'm doing. You're mountain biking and I'm using AI to help us catch fish. Wow, we're so outdoorsy. Look at us go.
Look at us
Oh
go.
my God, girls in the wilderness.
Sometimes on the weekend, I'll go for a hike in the morning. Then I'll go ride my horse outside. And then I'll go mountain biking. That's what I did on Sunday. And I was like, I'm like a poster child of BC.
You could literally be sponsored by Patagonia.
I love that. I mean, I'm not doing anything that exciting on any of those things.
That's not the point.
No, but I'm going.
Outdoorsy vibes.
So I'm like, wow, I've been outside all day. It's so great. And then I'm like, my
Wow.
depression's going away.
It's actually crazy how much being outside makes you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Like even you were away all last week, so I was just like working in the basement, and I was
You like didn't leave your house.
lonely. I am so lonely. And
Probably
then
got so much done without me harassing you.
not really.
Oh,
I was just doing stupid
thank
stuff, and then I'm
goodness.
like, hopefully Sarah's fine with me doing all these stupid things because
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like giggling to myself, making these social media posts, thinking I'm so funny, even though like
Okay,
10
well,
people
I
liked it.
laughed so loud, and then I showed every single person. I was like, look at this video.
I'm like,
And
this
no
is
one,
what
like,
happens when
everyone's like,
Sarah leaves me alone. I'm just doing stupid stuff in the
Cool.
basement. Yeah, so I was just, I'm like, wow, I've just been in the basement with no human contact for like a little while. I don't know. And then Josh was like, let's go in the boat. And I swear I had a headache, and we went outside, and I had fresh air and like water, and I was like,
in a dusty basement.
I'm like, I'm healed.
I'm healed.
It's actually, yeah, it's crazy. And we'll just like put the tunes on,
That's so
and
nice.
it's not like active fishing where you're like doing stuff. Like we're just like trolling, like just boating really slowly. So you're literally just sitting in the boat with tunes and snacks and the breeze and the sunshine. And
Nice. And that's the nicest lake ever.
yeah.
Wow. Look at us go. Sweet. But we're back in business, back in the saddle, back online, back.
Back in black.
That was the weirdest laugh I've ever done.
Was it?
I don't know.
Okay.
We're in a weird mood because
We're back.
we're slowly just like filming things that are they're just getting more like silly.
We filmed some really silly things that maybe only we're going to find funny today. Or maybe we are only going to find funny once we post it. I don't know. But we just had some Red Bull, and then we'd filmed some stupid stuff. And then we were on my street, and the neighbors probably think we're insane. And we're just...
Probably. Honestly,
Yeah.
though, it's a good first step that we think it's funny. Because before I was like, this is stupid.
like, I think it's boring. So
it's got to be
someone else is definitely going to think it's boring. Everyone
Yeah.
else is.
At least this one we kind of think is somewhat funny or entertaining. So it's
Yeah.
good. It's good. It's a good start.
Yeah.
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 Oh my goodness.
Okay. So
Anyways, so what do we want to talk about today? I think we want to talk about.
I think we
He's
wanted
done.
to talk about something very serious.
Yes. Well, it kind of is, isn't it?
What?
Fraud?
Yeah.
Oh.
Very
I thought you were being
serious.
sarcastic.
Oh. Actually, I've been told that some people can't tell if I'm being sarcastic or serious. My own fiance. He's like, what? He's like, what do you... I can't tell.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I actually thought it was pretty obvious until we started filming ourselves like doing these things, and I watched myself speak, and I was like, I can't even tell what's happening. I'm watching me, and I was in that body. Like, what?
You can't tell what you're thinking. You're
No.
like, are you good? That's so funny.
Anyway, something very serious, and this is not sarcasm.
Okay.
Fraud.
Yeah. Well, we recently worked with someone who had been the victim of fraud in their business. And it kind of just got us thinking like, okay, how does this happen? What are the signs of fraud? What are some red flags of fraud? How could you prevent fraud? And we thought it'd just be a fun thing to talk about today.
Really fun.
Okay, well, maybe not fun, but it's more exciting than like
Maybe
taxes,
Ew.
right?
Maybe this will provide some value. Also, I feel like a lot of people, when they're hiring bookkeepers, accountants, controllers, whatever, they just like get scared that they're going to be taken advantage of. But I feel like a lot of people don't actually know how to like protect themselves or like mitigate some of these things or like, you know?
Yeah, I feel like there's almost like, well, there's more than two types, but there's definitely like the people who are like almost scared that something's going to happen. So they're maybe like over
Mm-hmm.
zealous or over, I don't know. And then there's people that are like, oh, thank God you're here. Take it all. And then they just never think about it.
Yeah. Which is basically what happened in this scenario.
Yeah. Basically, a controller came in, had access to basically everything, was this nice, sweet little middle-aged old lady, brought people donuts, was so kind, never took a vacation, and sold a bunch of money. And
A lot of money.
yeah, and that's kind of, well, I took a fraud class in college. Did you take fraud? Did you have that?
I don't think so.
It was the coolest class because you got to learn about it. And then we would do like these like case studies where you like researched a fraud case and they'd present it and like say how they did it and like how they could have prevented it and like all that stuff.
Was it in your assurance course?
No, it's just its own course.
Oh.
Fraud. And it was so fun. It's probably one of my favorite courses. But it like kind of did a deep dive into like what creates it or like how it can show up.
Mm-hmm. Like
And
the
then
signs.
yeah, so one of the main things is like there's this thing called the fraud triangle.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's like it needs like someone needs to have
It's like motive, the ability,
opportunity.
And, oh yeah, opportunity, motive, or something like that.
I know I can't actually
And
remember the actual
then-
words. Let's see. Just we're not saying dumb stuff. Pressure,
Under pressure.
opportunity, meaning like they are able to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure meaning usually it's something in their lives like financial or debt or gambling habit or something. And then rationalization, so they need to be
Okay.
like able to rationalize to themselves why it's okay.
So it's not motive. Thank God we checked that.
And I think a lot of the cases we looked at in the class, people were normally, a lot of them were like, I will pay it back. I'm just going to borrow this for now to get this debt or gamble or whatever, and then I will pay it back.
It's only short term. I'm just gonna pay it back right after this other thing happens.
Yeah, and then they like get into this hole and then they can never pay it back.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than the situation we helped out with. That one didn't really feel like she wanted to pay it back, but it did seem like the rationalization to her was like, she was kind of the vibe of like, I run this business. I deserve more. I deserve to be paid more. I deserve. And then obviously had the opportunity because she had access to everything. And pressure for her, I think, was she'd had a quite extravagant lifestyle for
Yeah.
what she was making. So I'm sure there was pressures there for bills and
I wonder what happened first. Like, was it the lifestyle, or did she just have lifestyle creep from all of the companies that she stole from?
for this person, I think she went there with the intention to steal. Like she'd done it before.
Yeah.
At different places, which no one knew obviously, but it was like a pattern.
Yeah.
So hers might have been was much more vindictive, I think, but
yeah.
so sad. Not for her, but for the business.
Yeah, and even like going on the opportunity piece, because she obviously had the opportunity because she was the controller. She had access to the banks and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes risky in a company when one person has access to something and nobody else does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think in that scenario, other than the owner, nobody had access. Nobody could see the bank statements. Nobody reconciled the bank
Mm-hmm.
other than her.
Yeah.
No one even saw it,
Mm-hmm.
which
when you kind of know the red flags of fraud, you're like, oh, red flag. Like a
Yeah.
lot of these things, you're like, oh, red flag. But like when you don't, you're just like, okay, cool. Thank you for taking care of things.
also, it doesn't always mean fraud just because
No.
one person has access to the bank, one person does the bank reconciliation.
No,
Like,
most times it doesn't.
yeah.
But-
But there's just like all of these little things and she would like overcomplicate things to people when things weren't adding up.
Yeah, so she actually had quite a few of these red flags. Okay, let's see what some of them
Yeah.
are. So lifestyle beyond means, red flag. So sometimes you don't always know that, but if like people are showing up in like crazy cars or
Well, it's
going
hard to know too because you're like, oh, maybe they have family money, maybe their partner has money, maybe
Yeah.
they've got investments, like maybe they've
reluctance to share duties. So that was a big one. So she did all of the things to do with the bank, all the things to do with money.
And like the never wanting to take a vacation.
That's
I feel
another
like
one.
okay, that's another. Sorry,
No, go ahead.
I'm jumping ahead.
Or maybe it's not.
Well, never wanting to take vacation. At first, you're like, wow, this person is so committed to the job. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's actually just because they're scared that someone's going to look at the stuff when they're gone.
And a lot of fraud actually gets found out when someone does finally take a vacation or does like it usually is pretty easy to see as soon as someone looks.
Yeah.
But they work really, really, really hard to like not let anyone look.
Yeah. And to not take a vacation, not
Yeah.
take it,
Or like not want to show you financials, being like almost upset that you want to see them, or like what, you don't trust me, like that kind of defensive thing is also a red flag.
Yeah.
What else did I got in here? Unusual financial patterns. So like this one's probably a lot harder to tell if you don't have experience, but it's more like, oh, like there was a, oh God, I'm gonna butcher it, but there's like this, fuck, I don't even know what it's called, but essentially they tend to do numbers that are like 8, 7, 6, 9, like higher numbers at the end.
Oh.
So you can actually like take data and like run it through and like analyze it, and it will tell you if there's like higher risk of fraud just based on how many times like the same numbers come up, because people think they're using a random number, but they actually tend to choose the same random numbers.
Really?
Like you're inclined to be like, oh, 76.99. But like it's weird, but like that was a thing we did in audit. We would actually like analyze, I mean, this might be archaic now, I don't know, but analyze data and be like, oh, for some reason the number 9 is showing up a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd almost have to like look and I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're kind of like playing into the psychology of people, because they're probably trying to do an exact number because they're like, oh, if it's an exact number, then it's going to look more legit than if it's just like $100 or $1,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
But then if they're always picking like 99 or 98 or
Yeah.
87, whatever.
Yeah. Another thing that also helps with too is if like, let's say there's, I mean, this would be a company that has some sort of controls, but like if they're like, oh, they have the ability to write checks for under $5,000 or under $1,000
without approval.
Yeah. Then like numbers right under that usually.
Yeah, because
that's more like a long shot if you're kind of looking for it. Like it's not really a red flag of knowing. But
also it brings up the topic that like not all fraud is this like big transaction that they're like taking. Like normally it's a significant amount of small transactions.
Yeah. 100%.
And a lot of the times it's in different ways. Like at the same time, they're not going to do all of their fraud through one method.
Mm-hmm.
Like this girl, she was making like fake supplier invoices, right?
Yeah. She was making a fake invoice to a real supplier and then just paying it to herself.
So she was like changing the bank that it was going to.
I mean, yeah.
Or
she wasn't even doing
checks.
that. But yeah, she was just like transferring money to herself saying it was for an invoice from a certain vendor, and it wasn't.
So there's that. And then,
but one thing she did is, you know how like every vendor has invoice numbers?
Yeah.
So like most vendors, like let's say your invoice number is 1, 2, 3, 4. You're not going to randomly have one that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But she didn't even, like, she made the numbers weird.
Like she didn't make it in the same format as their normal investors.
So stuff like that. So it's things usually that you're like, if you went to look, now obviously there's people who are way more sophisticated when they're committing fraud. She was a little more like, I'm so smart, no one will ever catch me vibes.
I'm untouchable.
Yeah, so a little more like that. So it made it a lot easier to find once someone looked. But it was very interesting to see. I'm like, that just seems so obvious. But it's not, unless you're looking for it.
And then wasn't there was like inventory fraud too, wasn't there?
No. She was just booking all of the things she was booking all the fake things to inventory.
Right.
So then inventory could never reconcile. And that's actually with the next one, overly complex transactions. It's basically just like they make things seem so complicated. So, you know,
they make it seem like you don't get it because you're dumb, but it makes perfect sense to someone smart. And so you kind of feel like
you must feel silly for asking or like questioning, or
you don't want to question because they've made you feel small and insignificant for asking a question that they're deeming dumb.
Yeah.
even though really they're just making something seem way more complicated to confuse you so that you stop looking into it, or when things don't add up, you think it's because you don't get it.
Yeah. And I would say, like, if you have someone working for you in your business doing finances, their literal job is to be able to explain it to you.
100%.
So if they can't explain it, then you're not doing your job and get out of here.
Yeah.
Like,
also, I feel like in school they taught you, or they at least placed a huge importance on being able to communicate, like change your communication depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to another accountant in this case, or our case, then you can use certain language and you can use certain whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're talking to someone with no accounting experience, you have to be able to like say the same information in a way that they would understand.
Yeah.
Like,
what's the point of all of it if you can't convey it to the owner?
to
Or,
other
like,
people who aren't accountants. Like,
yeah.
yeah. So just when people make it seem so complicated,
Red flag.
red flag.
Or when you feel like you asked a really basic question and they give you like a whole book answer that's like,
Yeah.
it's like, also now we do have AI, so like put that shit in AI and get it to make it more concise, and like you can literally just be like, hey, can you take this? I've done that so many times. Hey, can you take this information that I wrote and can you edit it so that it goes to someone who has no accounting experience at all?
Mm-hmm.
And it does.
Mm-hmm.
Way better than I could.
Yeah. So overcomplication is a red flag.
Personal issues, so a lot of stress, things like that. Things that you could be like, okay, they might need a little more cash, behavioral shifts, defensiveness, irritability, that kind of thing. And then too good to be true results. Numbers always hit targets perfectly, even when business is shaky.
Yeah.
This one didn't really have that, but that
Well,
it's like just enough that you don't look into it.
yeah. But because they were having some financial whatever, and she was blaming it on everyone else, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
She was like, well, they can't figure out how to count inventory. They're so dumb. Like, oh my God, I always have to be fixing their stuff. Like somebody's stealing inventory.
Oh yeah, that's another red flag. If they're saying someone else is stealing,
Yeah.
they might be like, none of these red flags in themselves are enough to be like, you're stealing, obviously.
Yeah.
But if like, but it is interesting to see how in hindsight she had so many of the classic red flags.
Yeah. And she was like, no one thought that anyone was stealing. And then she was just like, somebody's stealing. It's not me. It's someone over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah. Things like that. And I don't think, like, you obviously don't have to be like I think these red flags are good little indicators, but like, really, we're gonna talk about this next, but like there should be controls in your business where you are perpetually kind of checking and looking and seeing things. But it can be hard if you don't really know what to look at or check for.
Yeah. Like a lot of people, I mean, how would they know?
Yeah. And I think that's a really big thing that like, well, it's really hard because this person was the controller. It's a person you trust. You hired them because of their expertise. And then they are confidently telling you a story and you're like, okay. Because I was going to say, I mean, it's up to like, I feel like it's up to us as other accountants and bookkeepers to like help business owners see those things. But then it's hard because like if a business owner has a controller, they probably don't. You know what I mean?
I mean, not that it totally matters, but did she have a designation?
She said she did. And then she said it lapsed because she didn't pay for it. She also had no online presence at all.
Yeah, like if you Googled her name, there was zero.
Which is weird.
Not a Facebook profile,
not a LinkedIn.
Not an article, like nothing.
Nothing.
Which you can Google basically anyone and get something.
Also, as like a professional accountant with a career in accounting, not to have LinkedIn. Like, I know you don't need it, but it is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because that's like how so many people like get jobs and like.
I think my designation lapsed while you're a controller is really fishy.
Yeah, like it's one thing if. I think she made it seem like she was doing something else for a bit, so she felt like she didn't need her designation. I don't know. Anyways.
She had a story.
She always had a story.
Say why she didn't have a designation.
Yeah, she had a good story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because if she had a designation, then you could report her. Yeah. I mean, she's already in enough legal battles, but
yeah. Okay, so some common ways people commit fraud. So probably the hardest one to catch is just skimming cash because there's no real like
Yeah, cash is tough. Not
record of it.
that many companies have cash. Well,
Yeah,
I feel like the amount of people that use cash is probably a lot less than
less.
before,
Yeah.
but yeah, cash is super easy to just swipe.
Especially if no one's counting it, or you're just like, oh, the till was out, or this was out, or and if no one's really looking,
Yeah.
you get to the end of the year and you're like, oh, we just have less cash. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Weird. And then if there's already a story explaining it, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Fake vendors. So setting up a fake company and issuing invoices, but then paying themselves. She essentially did this, but didn't make a fake vendor. She just made fake invoices.
Which, if you were to even ask that vendor for like a statement or something.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing she did right for the period is like only she would be the one to really look at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
it's
guess that's
like,
true.
even if the vendor sent a statement and it didn't match, like she was the only one that would
Yeah.
probably notice
Yeah.
or see it. Payroll fraud. So this probably happens a little bit more in larger companies with a lot of employees, but actually when I was working in audit, we were doing an audit of a company, and she had the controller had done this. So she had created a fake employee and then had set up her bank account for that employee. And it was like an employee that was like super like didn't work too much and like kind of part-time, only when we needed them, like had a name that's similar to another name, like that kind of thing. And one of the tests we actually used to do, obviously with audit, like you do tests based on the company, what they do and like the risks, whatever. But one of the tests that we did is you would literally just pull a report of the banking and you could see like, I don't think you could see it all, but you could see like last four numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, it's really rare for two banks to have the same exact last four numbers.
Yeah.
So just like essentially flag it, and then that's how they found it. So she was straight up just paying herself two paychecks.
Oh my
Isn't that
gosh.
crazy?
How do people sleep at night?
I don't know.
I could never.
Yeah, that one's wild.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh,
Stressed
I'm
even
throwing
thinking about
my
that.
Yeah, I'm like, I have enough trouble sleeping at night already.
Yeah,
Holy.
I already feel like I'm a piece of shit just by not being good enough. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my goodness. Expense reimbursement fraud. So submitting fake or inflated expense reports. So, but like kind of just fake expenses.
I could see that one.
Yeah.
Especially in big companies. Like, I feel like
when no one's really checking.
Or there's just like so many employees. There's a lot of expense reimbursements. Like, it's just, you're like, oh, this was, yeah, I could see that.
And that one would be like you slide in a personal one just like every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then that one you could be like, oh my gosh, my bad.
Oh my gosh, that's
probably more when you do if you're not like in charge of, like if you're not the controller. Like
Yeah.
that's more like
an employee's
anyone can do it. Try it out. Try it for yourself. Just kidding.
Don't try this at home.
Check tampering. Okay, maybe this is more what she did, but like writing checks to themselves or altering the payee, covering it with forged signatures or doctored records. So her thing, like she didn't even, like you could get really crazy and you could write the check, or not the check, but you could like pay a fake company that then pays another. Like you could make it like way harder to tie it. She just paid herself.
She was like, no one's going to catch me. I'm amazing and I'm smarter than everyone.
Yeah. Manipulating financial statements, overstating revenue, or hiding losses to look good. That's usually tied to, that usually appears more if it's like the profit's tied to a bonus or like there's some sort of incentive for people to like have an exact number.
That happens.
Yeah. In school, we heard about a company that they would essentially just move certain numbers under a certain line so that bonuses could remain consistent.
Yeah, like if the bonuses are based off of like EBIT, like earnings before interest and tax, then they would essentially just move one of the losses from the year below that line because they're like, oh, this is a one time, it's not operational. Like you can think of a bunch of different things. I mean, again, it's the rationalization. Rationalize that it was a one time, it was a weird event, it was a whatever. Like I think it should be categorized differently. Like when they move it under, like below that line on financial statements so that everyone still gets their hundreds of thousands of dollars of bonuses.
That's how much bonuses people get. That's fun.
Well, in this case, I'm pretty sure the company was like $1 billion or something.
Wow. That's crazy.
So that, yeah, it happens.
And then lapping, using today's customer payments to cover yesterday's theft. So like juggling receivables to delay detection. That one's probably harder. Well, that one at least you're trying to cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
You're essentially taking money, but then you're using payments from customers to like cover it. But then it's like this constant cycle of
Like nothing's reconciling.
yeah,
There's
nothing
like
perfectly ever works. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Or I think we kind of said this, but just like setting up a fake vendor, getting an invoice for like services, because those are really hard to track if you got the thing or not.
Especially if you're like, oh yeah, no, I think we had this like random guy come and like look at the plumbing the other day, and it's like some random guy that's like a phone. Like,
Yeah.
it would be really
Something.
probably easy to be like, oh, it was a one timer. Like, I don't know, this guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Just things like that. Anything like a little weird, a little fishy, but sometimes it's really hard to, I don't know. It's hard when you trust someone too. You're like, oh.
Yeah. Also, like,
Also, if you would never do that, you're just like, no one does that. But
yeah.
they do. Actually, my other friend, her family business had the same thing where someone was just straight up stealing. I think it was more like the cash. So every time they do a bank deposit, they like took some of the cash. And they ended up taking like, I don't even know, 30 grand or something. Maybe 60, but like not that long. And like you don't get it back.
No.
Like you could try to fight it, but you're like,
but then how much are you spending in legal bills? Like, it's just a nightmare.
And it's so sad because like businesses like that, like that's basically, instead of the business owner getting a wage, this person took it. Like it comes straight out of that the owner's pocket.
So sad.
Whereas like a massive company, it's like, okay, you can kind of like,
yeah,
you know, it's like less effective on one person. But like for my friend, it's like, oh, her dad didn't get a wage that year, essentially. I know. So you work all year to be like, oh, cool, I made $0. Because this random person that I trusted with my business just took it.
Felt like they were more deserving.
Yeah.
Than me.
I know.
Yeah. It's really sad. And like, yeah.
So here are some ways to prevent or detect fraud. That would scare people.
I know. We're like, you will get pregnant and you will die. You know, that Mean Girls quote.
Yeah. And you will die.
You will
like
get stolen from and you will.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the first one is segregation of duties.
Yeah.
And that actually is a really good one.
That's a really, really good one.
Or even just like two people at different points doing the same task. One person reconciles the bank, where another person takes the deposit, where another person preps the deposit. The only problem is in a small business, sometimes that can be really, really, really hard because usually you're not like, oh, here's my accounting department where everyone can take a piece of this function. Like a lot of times for smaller businesses, you are
like it's one person.
It's one person. So that's where it's really important for the owner to be involved.
Somewhat involved.
Somehow. Yeah.
Some type of oversight, whether it's like you're approving their reconciliation or maybe there's like an approval on any money that gets taken out of the bank. Like even if checks need 2 signatures.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
or e-transfers need 2 approvals.
Approvals, like, yeah.
And I think one thing to note, because this person was actually doing it where the owner was approving things. So they were creating, you know, a payables run where they had all the invoices and all the backup and the owner had to approve it. And it made a false sense of security where they made the owner feel like, well, I can't pay anything unless you approve it. But really they could because they had access to a bank account that only needed one person to log in and send money.
Was her fake invoices on the printed or payables run? No. Okay.
So that's why. So it's one thing to approve what's getting sent out. And then the last piece, that's the absolute most important, is when you say, okay, I approved 25 grand. You actually look at the bank and you say, was it 25 grand that left my bank?
Yeah.
Because she was literally saying you approved 25 grand and 28 grand left the bank.
Yeah.
You approved like just a little bit more, but
Yeah.
they never perfectly matched. But that one tiny little piece, you're doing all this work to look at the invoice, to approve the invoice, to talk to a production guy. Do we really need to buy this? Do we really, like, that's so much effort to then have her just add on a couple grand
Yeah.
when it actually comes time to take money from the bank.
Yeah, that's so true. That is the missing piece.
Yeah. And cash is king. So if you're going to look at anything, just like you should be able to look at your bank and ask someone and say, like, they should be able to explain to you every
Every single dollar.
dime that leaves your bank account.
Yeah.
And if they can't
100%.
explain it to you, that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And you're not stupid.
You're
And it's not a
stupid.
crazy question. No.
Yeah. And if 28 grand left the bank when you approved 25, you're allowed to say, hey, it looks like 28 grand left the bank.
Yeah.
Can I see like the revised payables thing that went through?
Yeah.
And if they're like, well, I had to do that, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Just show me.
Just show me. It's fine.
It's fine. Just show me the support.
Just
For
show
the
me
difference.
support.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All good. Just for my record keeping.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think another thing, I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead probably, but there's like also probably this pressure of like busy and a lot and we have to do it now and they need money. It's like, don't, like, this is your hard-earned money. Like, take an extra 10 minutes. Who
Mhm.
cares? Also,
Yeah.
they work for you. So you just tell them what you want.
Yeah.
And if you do, like, they're there to make your life easier. So if you have a controller or a bookkeeper or an account, any of these people, and they're making you feel stupid, like,
Just get rid of
your
them.
job, like, not that you have to, like, understand every intricate detail of the tax law, but, like, you should be able to explain to me why money left my bank.
Yeah, like you hired them to be able to like explain this to you. So
Yeah.
get them to explain it to you.
Like, if I could do, yeah, that's your literal job. Well, part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Regular audits, surprise checks or annual reviews by outside firm, like fake vendors. I'll be the first to say audits don't catch fraud a lot of the time. They can catch fraud, and I've seen them catch fraud before, but they have no requirement to catch fraud. So
No,
if you
it's not even the purpose of an
No.
audit.
and if you are like if you get an audit done, like a legit audit from like a third party account, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
well, to be like, if someone's doing something really like kind of basic and like, or that payroll thing, like,
Something obvious.
yeah, they can catch it. And if they do see anything fishy, obviously they will bring it to your attention. But if you read their engagement letter, if you read all the things you sign, they have no requirement to catch it. So if you get an audit and 2 years later you're like, oh my gosh, we were actually being sold from that year that you guys did the audit, you can't like sue them. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a misunderstanding of what an audit is, like what the purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not to catch fraud, and it's not to say that everything in your financials is correct.
Yeah. The idea of an audit is to make sure that things aren't materially misstated.
Which basically means based off of your company and some tests and revenue and whatever, there's an error tolerance.
Yeah.
And basically the point of an audit is to say your financial statements are probably within this error tolerance.
Yeah. And it is fair because like for a massive public company, like you could not check every single thing. I mean, maybe with
No.
AI and stuff, we actually are getting closer to being able to do that. And there are a lot more things that tech can help with, but it wouldn't be possible. And the idea is that like, if someone looked at these financials, would they make a different decision
Mhm.
based on this like
Yeah.
difference, you know? So if like the error, like let's say it's $1,000, it's never that. Obviously, it's usually way bigger. But like if it was $1,000 more, would someone make a different decision? Like would they not invest, or would they not loan money, or would they not whatever?
Mhm.
And they obviously consider the users. There's a ton that goes into it, and they do a ton of work to perform an audit. Like it's very complex, but they don't have to find fraud. Because also, how can you, right? Someone's truly in there trying to manipulate the data or like
It's
lie
more
to your
like
face.
If I stumble across fraud, I have to point it out.
Yeah.
And I have to like draw attention to it. But you're not like, it's not like, hey, I'm doing an audit and I'm going to make sure there's no fraud and no errors.
Yeah. Because
That's
also a lot of
not
an
real.
audit is like relying on the information that the controller tells you, or the owner tells you, or the board tells you, or whatever.
And as an auditor, that's all you can do is ask
Yeah.
the question and accept the answer that's given.
And they're saying that they will be truthful, but like, and that's great. But usually fraudsters aren't being truthful in the first place. So you know, so just know that like a lot. Yeah. just know that you still want to make sure your controller is good, even though if you're not. And when you do a year-end accounting thing, taxes, like they also have no requirement to find any sort of fraud.
No.
And they're usually not even digging that deep into like the actual minute.
No,
like
they're doing enough to like file your year-end return,
Yeah.
and like that's all they're doing.
And if you're like, oh, this vendor gave us supplies and we paid them this money, like they're not like, can you imagine if they had to go in and be like, who's the vendor? What'd you buy? Show me that it exists. Whose bank account did it go to? Track it to it. Like,
No,
that's insane. That would never be a thing.
they're like, I'm need to ask enough questions to be able to file this year end with enough confidence, and that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not doing more than that.
And most companies don't actually have fraud, so
yeah.
These are the outliers.
This is just to scare you.
Yeah. Okay, so another controls bank reconciliations, which is kind of what we said before with like seeing what bank reconciliation sounds kind of complicated, but that essentially just means like, hey, in my books it said 10 grand left the bank, and when I look at the bank, was it also 10 grand?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do the books and the bank account match? And you want to get the bank statement from the bank because they're a third party and they don't look at your, like, right? So that is like probably the biggest piece. You can review and look at all the support and things you want, and then make sure that's actually what hit the bank.
Yeah, you're basically matching every single transaction that went through your bank to a transaction in your books to make sure that the balance at the end is the same and all the transactions have support.
Mm-hmm. And even just like what I tell business owners is like, even like once every 2 weeks or once a month, just log into your bank and literally just scan it. Now, for massive companies, this obviously probably isn't realistic at all, but that's where they have a lot of other controls in place.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're kind of just a smaller business, you have a bookkeeper or an accountant you're trusting, just log into your bank, scan it, and be like, do I feel like I can understand what all these are?
Mm-hmm.
At the very least.
Yeah.
Because in this situation, as soon as someone went to look for it, they found in 20 minutes what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So all you really have to do is just log in and be like, oh, what's that? Wait, that looks weird.
Yeah. And yeah, never be scared to ask questions about anything.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the next one, review the financials yourself. Sometimes that's challenging if this person is actually like manipulating financials. They're probably trying to make it so, it depends, but let's say they're probably not going to do a huge spread of a change. Like they do try to make it even,
Mm-hmm.
I would guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
If we were to do that, that's what...
But they're probably trying to make, you know, this number compared to last year's number pretty good.
Yeah, because as soon as there's large variances year over year, month over month, then you have to explain it.
Yeah.
So they're probably not trying to do like huge.
Yeah.
Like they're probably trying to keep it like pretty close to smooth.
But the other thing I would also say is your financial statements should tell the story of your business. So let's say this year you're like, well, I know we lost a key supplier, or a key customer, or I know that it was COVID and all the prices went up, or I know that this event happened. Show me how it affected my financials. So just because it's a new year doesn't mean it should be the same as last year. It actually should be reflecting what you know to have happened. So if you're like, man, we're really having a good year this year, well, your financials should reflect that. And if it doesn't, then you should ask, hey, I thought we were having a good year. Why is it not being shown? Or, hey, I thought we were having kind of a shitty year. Like, why is our profit the exact same as last year? Or better, or what? I don't know.
Yeah. Your financial statements should tell the story of what happened in your business for that period.
Yeah. And if you're working in the business, you kind of know, while maybe you don't know exactly how you're supposed to record it for accounting purposes.
But you know if it's a good year or a bad year, average. Like,
yeah. Or if you're like, oh, wow, all of the prices went up for our vendors. Then you're like, you know, like,
yeah.
And maybe that also means that your sales, whatever, like maybe they actually do have an explanation, but like you're not dumb to just be like, hey, I thought this. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to me where this number comes from?
Yeah.
Okay, vendor verification. So that one's actually we actually used to do that too. So we would just pull a list of vendors, we'd send it to the owner, the controller, whoever's supposed to look at it, and just say, hey, do these all seem like vendors you use? And another thing you can do is like throw in like numbered companies are sometimes weird.
Yeah.
Or like a quick Google search of like certain vendors if they seem, that one's kind of hard, but if you're just like, what the heck is this vendor?
Yeah,
Or if,
like especially if you're a small business, you probably know most of the vendors.
yeah, you'd think.
So if there's a random vendor that you've never seen before, I mean, ask about it.
Yeah. Employee background checks. That's a good one.
Which is interesting with this person
Yeah.
because apparently they did a background check, right? And it didn't come back that great.
I don't think they did no, sorry. I think the background check was fine. But I think a few of her not referrals. What are they called? Referrals? References?
Yeah.
I think a few of the references were like not super positive. Which
And-
is weird. Most references you put on your piece of paper because they're going to be like, she's the best. She fucking rocks.
Yeah.
Best employee ever. So I think that.
When the references are saying bad things, like that's weird.
Yeah. And I don't think they said anything bad. I think they were like, hey, can't comment. So that's a red flag. If someone can't comment.
That's pretty suspicious.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, have you ever thought that you would give a reference and they would be like, and they'd be super sketchy on the phone and say like they can't comment on like a bunch of stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if it was that intense, but I can't remember.
Anyways,
But call the references. Never know what you'll find.
you never know.
Also, it's really easy to fake a reference, isn't it? But the one cool thing is like you could be like, okay, does this like you could just look up the person. And now LinkedIn, I mean, I don't love LinkedIn, but now they have a thing where like they have this like verification thing. So they can be like, oh, this is Joe and he does work at this company. He has an actual company email, like that kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if it's like a bit like a company where it just like it just to make sure it's not a fake person, you could just like look them up on LinkedIn and
Yeah, even just a quick Google search.
yeah.
Like, does this person exist? Like, was that a fake name? Who knows?
Yeah.
Or is there a random news article on how they stole from their like we don't know.
Another thing is if they work for a company, don't call the direct line, just call the company and be like, hey, can I talk to Joe Smith?
Yeah.
And then if they're like, who? But usually if you reach reception and then they can transfer you to the person, like they work there, right?
Yeah.
Another little trick. Okay, another thing is encourage time off. So interestingly enough, this person only would take time off at the exact same time the owner took time off. In the moment, not that weird. You're like, oh, it's a slower time of year. This is when we all kind of take a break. But once again, in hindsight, when you're like, it's a little bit weird. You only took time off ever if the owner wasn't there?
Yeah, I think every single person should have like someone that fills their role while they're away. So like there should be a backup for every single role for like these tight situations where they're not available. And if there's no, I mean, I guess it's harder when it's a small company, but yeah, it's weird when they won't take time off and they also won't train anyone for when they do take time off.
Or when like they want to do tasks that like normally, I don't know, like in my mind, if I had a junior accountant, I'd be like, you do the bank rec, I'll review it. Or you do this and I'll just review it. But like that wasn't the case. She like wanted to do it all herself.
Yeah.
When again, like in the moment,
when there
you're
was
like,
a team.
Yeah.
Which is
or there was other
more
people.
suspicious.
So like in the moment, you're like, oh, what a hard worker. But like just be a little skeptical. It's like, oh, okay, interesting. And then the last one to help prevent some controls is whistleblower hotline. Or just like an open communication. Because sometimes your staff or other people, like they're pretty, I don't know, like they're pretty observant and they're working with this person. Like sometimes it's like, okay, this is just weird.
Yeah, when other staff are coming to you and like saying these weird comments, listen, maybe. Or like look into it. Or don't brush it off.
And some people, like, I think staff can be really, like, because it would be scary to be like, okay, the person who's technically my boss, I'm going to go to like the boss and complain about. Like, that is a sketchy.
And those are some bold statements too if you start whipping around the word.
And if you don't have proof, like hard proof, like I would probably never do that. Yeah. Now that's maybe where like more of a whistleblower type thing where either you can be anonymous, you can just be like something, or just like have that type of relationship with your staff or have them have it with like a manager, whatever.
Yeah.
To just so they feel open about. Just be like, you can just say like, yeah, you're not going to get fired for like saying something's weird.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of employees wouldn't do that. To be honest, I don't know. Unless I was like
No.
pretty sure, I would not do that ever.
Or unless it was like super, super sketchy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So another red flag is middle-aged women. Just kidding. That's not on the list, but that's actually one of the most common people
Who
statistically.
do fraud.
Yep. They're so sweet,
Oh.
little angels.
Oh my gosh, they're so sweet.
And then, yeah, just be aware and look
Stay
at your
vigilant.
cash and ask questions. Stay vigilant. Don't let someone make you feel dumb.
Yeah. Also, if like any of these scenarios are true, it doesn't necessarily mean that
No.
this person is stealing from you. I mean, we're not trying to scare you. We're just trying to educate you and, give you some pointers on some controls that you can put in place to mitigate some fraud and some things to look out for. Some things that you might not think are fishy, but actually maybe are a little bit fishy.
Mm-hmm. And trust your gut. Someone's giving you weird vibes. That one's harder though.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's your business. You have the right to
You have the right to know.
and understand things.
Yeah. Also, if they give you a weird answer, put their answer into ChatGPT and be like, does this make sense? And then ChatGPT will be like, no.
It's actually such a good idea. You can actually use AI for a lot. You can actually like literally copy your financials that they give you and put it in and be like, is any of this weird? Or be like, hey, you know what else you can do? You can do the same thing where you're like, hey, this happened in my business this year. These are the financials. Can you help explain to me where I would see this?
Yeah.
Or how it would appear? Or if you knew that a business had increased prices of whatever, how would you expect the finance? Like just things like that. Now, obviously, don't take everything it says and be like, you're stealing.
Yeah.
But like it does just help you understand or like help you connect dots between the real world and what you're seeing on your financials.
Yeah, like does this make sense for what happened in my business and now it's showing this? And this was the explanation I got.
Yeah.
Does any of this make sense?
Also get financials because actually we're just assuming they're giving you financials.
That's true.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, get financials.
Require them to produce financials.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think another common thing is it's like they're like, oh, it's like super behind, I don't have the right information, blah blah, like that kind of which can be true.
I'm getting caught up, which can be true.
Yeah, all these things can be true, but you definitely want your financials as fast as you can get them, like as close to real time as you can. Now that might be a month late, that might be 2 months late. For us, it's like fucking a day. Not to brag. No, just kidding.
But if you want, it's fresh in your mind, because when you're looking at something from 2 months ago, I mean, you don't remember.
Yeah, you're like,
you don't know.
Was it a good month? Was it bad? I don't really know. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so stay vigilant. Don't let your guard down. No. We're also not saying
don't trust anyone ever.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're also not saying don't trust anyone ever, because
no, this is like such a small percentage of people.
You also can't micromanage everything because you'll just burn out and you'll drive yourself crazy. But just do your due diligence.
It is more common than you think. I like personally know probably like 5 different people.
I know. I feel like in school I always thought this was not that common, or you're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe someone's stealing. But I swear I've heard of so many people getting stolen from. It's so sad, and oftentimes it is the small companies, which is sad.
Yeah, and I think that's probably because they like a big company usually has so many levels of oversight, control, review. You do it, I review it, then this person reviews it, then that person. Yeah, so many approvals, so much like red tape almost, but it's because of this. Whereas a smaller company, like you're kind of trying to, you're like, oh, thank God you're helping with that so I can focus on this. Like you're not, yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to hire a whole team. Like you do it.
Yeah. Like that's what I've hired you for. Just do it.
Yeah. And it's great to trust people. But like even people like for me, they've been like, oh, it's fine. I trust you. I'm like, you shouldn't. Like you should trust. Like
I'm a stranger.
Yeah. But I'm like, that's very nice that you trust me. And like, I hope to be a trustworthy person. But like you act like I tend to almost educate people when they're over trusting of me. I'm like, here's how I could take money from you with the way it's happening.
Yeah.
Like with the way this is organized right here. Would you notice? Like,
yeah.
And that's probably just more because.
Yeah. Or like, I don't really like being in this position, I would rather you have access, or you have approval, or I have you only, or like things like that,
Yeah.
to be like, this is why.
And as a bookkeeper or a controller, like you actually probably are smart to put those controls in place for your business, because firstly, you don't want it coming back a year later that they're like, hey, just so you know, 50 grand went missing and you were the only person who had access to the bank. It's like, even like you're almost at risk if you're not stealing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you want controls to be like, no, I didn't have access. Everything that went through here, you approved. Here's your signature. Or everything that did this is the owner's like,
Yeah.
or the owner email. I would be like almost over the top with that. Like anytime I had to send money to myself for like legitimate things, I would always be like, dear owner, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Please reply approved, or please sign here. Just because you don't want to be the only one.
Well, even for our one client, she was like, oh, do you want to just pay yourself? And I flat out was like, no, I think you should pay us.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one to pay it. I personally don't feel like I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah. You don't even want that to be the norm.
Yeah, I don't want that to be the norm, that I can just send money to myself. So I was like, any money that's going to us, I would rather you press send and you send to us. And she's like, okay.
Yeah. Which makes, yeah. Don't even do the option. Also, did you know that if you share logins to a bank and then they find out that you were doing that, like they won't cover fraud stuff?
What do you mean?
Like, let's say like a bunch of people are all sharing one login to a bank because you don't want to get like a business one or like have different users. If the bank is like, oh, you've been giving out this password and information, because we have clients sometimes that are like, oh, I'll just give you my login to the bank. We're like, no, because firstly, don't want that. Secondly, you can't tell who's doing what. And the bank, like if something does get fucked up or someone does take money, like they won't reimburse you. Like, because anyways,
because they're like, it's your fault, you shared your password.
Yeah, they're like, when you sign all these like things for the bank, you probably didn't read the whole thing, but you're basically saying, I will not share any of this, or else I understand that you won't cover it, which is very interesting to know. But it is, part of this isn't to scare people, but it's just to be like, the amount of people that we interact with who are just so trusting of us, which thank you so much, so kind. And I don't think you should go through life being like untrusting, but there is like, I always am the first to be like, so here's why you shouldn't give me that, or here's why I'm not going to do that, or here's why I'm not going to be the only person who can log into your bank and just send money anywhere I want. And then every once in a while I'm like, it'd be so easy. No, I'm just kidding. And
you guys are so vulnerable.
Another place that gets fucked all the time is charities.
Ugh, don't trust them.
Because they're always a volunteer. I wasn't saying the charity you don't trust.
Okay, I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
But
that was a joke.
A lot of times charities need a treasurer. They need a person. They need they don't always have a board that, also knows what they're looking for.
Don't they have less compliance for like a bunch of stuff too?
Well, they have, they usually have people who are just volunteering their time. So it's like, it is kind of weird to be like, oh, hey, Susan, who helps with the charity and gives all this time and is doing all this stuff out of the goodness of her heart. Like, can I see the financial? You know what I mean? Like,
actually,
you should be able to, but
that just reminded me. There was a lady in my hometown, which I grew up in a very small, like I think there's like only a few thousand people. She was found stealing from I'm not going to say it, but like a very well-known international charity. She had like, I don't know what position, but she stole like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they found it. And it was over like 10 years working at this charity.
Wow.
And I'm like,
yeah, a lot of the things we like I've seen have been charities. Or like, this is for like kids who want to play hockey and like stuff like that. Where you're like, why would you
have no soul?
Yeah.
You're literally, people are donating their spare disposable income to this cause, and then you're pocketing it.
You know, it'd be a great place to steal from? A church. Because people are just putting cash in the thing. I'm just kidding. People are just putting cash in it. There's like no real.
I bet there is.
Yeah, probably.
They just have that basket that they freaking hand around.
Yeah. And you just go. But also, there's probably a special place in hell for people who steal from a church.
Yeah, that you got to be pretty ballsy to steal from the church basket, I think.
Or kids playing hockey or like other charities.
Or like children in
That's crazy.
third world countries.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ruthless.
I don't trust them.
Or maybe we should do a course on how to spot fraud. How to read financials?
How to read financials. I feel like people...
How to get ChatGPT to read your financials to you? That sounds way more fun.
Yeah, it does. But I feel like a lot of business owners don't really know what they're looking at when they're looking at living with men.
Yeah.
It's just
The worst.
he thinks he's funny. Yeah, I feel like a lot of business owners don't really know what they're looking at when they're looking at their financial statements. They're like, oh, profit, woohoo, but they don't really they don't really know how to read them.
Well, especially if no one's taking the time to help them.
No.
They're just like, here's a random balance sheet. You're like, okie doke.
You're like, what is the point of this other than I see the cash, but like, what is the point of everything else?
Yeah. Well,
you tell us. What do you want to see?
I don't know.
Yeah, we have a lot of ideas for different
fun things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for watching.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.